They dragged him out of his car, slammed him with false charges, until he exposed who he really was. Late at night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the streets were mostly quiet, save for the occasional hum of traffic lights flickering from red to green. Elias Vance, a seasoned assistant U.S. attorney, had just left a dinner with colleagues. He wasn't thinking about work, injustice, or courtrooms, just home. That changed the moment he saw flashing red and blue lights in his rearview mirror. Sighing, he signaled, pulled over, and reached for his wallet. He wasn't speeding. He hadn't run a light. There was no reason for a stop, but he knew better than to assume reason had anything to do with it. Two officers approached his window. Officer Grant Corbin, tall and broad with a military cut, stood at the driver's side. Officer Shane Riley, leaner but no less imposing, hovered near the passenger door. "License and registration," Corbin said, his voice clipped. Elias handed over his documents. "May I ask why I was stopped?" Corbin glanced at Riley before answering. "Your tail light's out." Elias frowned. That was a lie. His car had just passed inspection, and a reflection from the rearview mirror showed his brake lights fully functional. "Are you sure about that?" Elias asked, keeping his voice even. Corbin's expression shifted just slightly. He leaned in. "Sir, step out of the vehicle." A slow tension crept through Elias's limbs. He'd prosecuted cases like this before, where a routine stop became something far worse. His instinct told him to comply, but his experience told him these officers were already escalating. "I'm not stepping out until you tell me why." Riley smirked, resting his hand on his belt. "Because we said so." Elias took a breath. He knew the law. He had spent years studying, enforcing, and defending it. He knew he didn't have to get out of the car unless there was probable cause. "I'm within my rights to ask why I'm being ordered out of my car." Corbin's patience snapped. He yanked the door open. "Step out now." Before Elias could react, Corbin grabbed his wrist, yanking him forward. The seatbelt caught his chest, digging into his shoulder. "What the hell are you doing?" Elias barked, instinctively pulling back. Corbin didn't answer. He just grabbed harder. Within seconds, Riley was on the other side, wrenching Elias's arm behind his back. The sharp edge of metal cuffs dug into his skin. "You're resisting," Corbin said coldly. Elias stared in disbelief as Riley pressed him against the hood of his own car. His heart pounded, but not from fear, from rage. This was a game, a setup, and they thought they had already won. But they were about to realize just how wrong they were. The courtroom in East Baton Rouge Parish Courthouse was packed. The air was thick with routine. Clerks shuffling papers, the occasional cough, the quiet hum of whispered conversations. But beneath that, something else simmered. Elias Vance sat at the defense table, his posture rigid but composed. He wasn't here as an attorney today. He was the defendant. The charges, resisting arrest, obstruction, disorderly conduct, complete fabrications. But Elias already knew the truth didn't matter, only what could be proven. At the front of the room, Judge Eleanor Shaw peered down from the bench. In her mid-60s, she had the kind of presence that commanded authority, whether it was earned or not. Her reputation, firm, uncompromising, dismissive of nonsense. And from the way she barely looked at him, Elias already knew where this was going. The prosecutor, Daniel Harding, walked with confidence, the kind of confidence that came from knowing the odds were in his favor. He straightened his tie and nodded to the officers sitting proudly near the witness stand. Elias watched as Corbin and Riley sat smugly, knowing they had the full weight of the system behind them. "Your Honor," Harding began, "this is a simple case of an individual escalating a routine traffic stop into a physical altercation with law enforcement." Elias exhaled slowly. The arrogance, the audacity. Harding continued, flipping through his notes. The defendant refused to comply with officers' lawful orders, became aggressive, and had to be restrained for the safety of all involved. Elias's lawyer, Carlos Diaz, an overworked and underpaid public defender, shot up from his chair. "Objection. There is zero evidence that my client was aggressive." Judge Shaw waved a hand dismissively. "Overruled." Elias clenched his jaw. That was fast. Diaz sighed, but pressed forward. "Your Honor, the officers escalated the situation without just cause. There is no body cam footage showing my client acting aggressively because no such footage exists." Harding smirked. Body cams were not operational at the time of the arrest. But the officers' statements are more than enough evidence. Elias almost laughed at the absurdity. The officer's word was all they needed. Convenient. Corbin took the stand first, delivering his well-rehearsed lines. The defendant was combative from the start, he said smoothly. Refused to exit the vehicle, raised his voice, created a hostile situation. Lies, every word. Riley followed up, nodding along as he added. He tensed up. We feared for our safety. We had no choice but to restrain him. More lies. Elias's fingers curled into fists under the table. He had spent his entire career fighting against this kind of blatant corruption, and now he was living it firsthand. Judge Shaw barely hid her impatience as she glanced at Elias's lawyer. Anything else, Mr. Diaz? Diaz hesitated. He knew this judge, knew her track record. She wasn't interested in fairness. Still, he swallowed hard and pushed forward. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Elias Vance to the stand. This was it. As Elias rose and walked to the witness stand, he could feel every pair of eyes on him watching, judging, waiting to see if he would break. But he wouldn't, because what was about to happen would change everything. Elias sat in the witness chair, exhaling slowly as the court clerk swore him in. His hands rested lightly on his lap, but inside, he was simmering. He wasn't here to defend himself. He was here to expose the truth. Prosecutor Harding stepped forward, pacing just slightly, an unnecessary display of confidence. Mr. Vance, would you say you complied with the officer's instructions during your traffic stop? Elias met his gaze, calm, controlled. I asked why I was being ordered out of my car. That's not illegal. Harding feigned a sigh. You refused to exit, correct? I asked why I was being asked to step out, Elias repeated, which legally I have the right to do. Harding smirked, glancing at the jury as if Elias's intelligence was an inconvenience. And after multiple orders, you still didn't comply? Elias held his stare. Because there was no lawful reason to. Harding turned to the judge, shaking his head as if he'd expected nothing less. Your Honor, it's clear the defendant. Elias leaned forward, voice even. Before we go any further, I should probably disclose something. Silence. Harding hesitated. Even Judge Shaw looked up, actually looking at him for the first time. Elias reached into his briefcase. His lawyer, Diaz, tensed, unsure of what was happening. Slowly, Elias pulled out his Badhea small,